And welcome to another show of Don't Get This Twisted. I am Rob, along with my always co-host Tina. How are you doing, Tina?
Hanging in there, Rob. How are you?
Oh, absolutely pleasant for this nice, warm evening.
Right.
Where I'm living, it's a crisp 82 at 7:30.
Yeah,
for those
I just
people
got out of the pool, so it's a warm day.
Yeah. You know, for those people who don't know that we record this at night, so it's kind of interesting that it's still 82, and I'm sure it's probably 82 where you live. So
I don't know. It was hot enough to be in the pool. That's what I know.
It was warm. It was warm where I work today. It was a little humid. Like it's been a little musty and wet. Not so much California weather. Kind of interesting. So
yeah.
But yeah. Besides that, not too shabby. And I heard some good news. I heard some good news from you just a few minutes ago. You're going to be also having a small little one running around, and it's going to be interesting. Since I went through the puppy stages, it's going to be interesting to hear your stories of,
kitten life.
Kitten life. The first couple of days are great until that kitten gets its bearings and then understands that it can jump on you at 3:00 in the morning for no apparent reason, just to play with you.
I think that's hilarious. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, that's the only good thing about my puppy is that he's crate trained. So like, he's not going to jump on me at night. But my plan is to, at some point, if he wants to hang around. So, but besides that, I thought we talked earlier in the week before about talking about what show we were going to do this week. And you came up with saying that a fan of the show, our Tennessee fan, which is quite interesting that we talked about it last week, and now we know who that is, wanted to talk about toxic family members. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I really don't have any. Not to pump myself up, but I have a very small family, and I wouldn't say any of them are toxic per se. I would just say more regular. I mean, we go through the same things, but I have heard from friends about just insane toxic family members that literally are just the anchor to everyone's boat.
Yeah.
Or whatever you want to think of the problem would be. I know that. So I thought I'd go your route because you said, oh, don't worry about it. I have enough for everyone, which is great. It's like candy, as long as you have enough for everyone, everyone's happy.
Well, I don't know. Having enough toxic people around for everybody, that's not something I like to boast about, No,
I agree. Look, nobody likes those toxic people around. But the funny thing is I think we all have a small bit of a toxic trait. Mm-hmm. A small bit.
Yes.
Unfortunately, sometimes that rolls over into a lot. Mm-hmm. or you think you have a very small toxic trait until you start talking to several people, and then you realize oh shit, I'm my own worst enemy. Unfortunately, the toxic family members, I think, never realize that.
No,
they don't.
No. When I was growing up, my mom was the last of 13 kids, and pretty much all of them, with the exception of one that I know, had a problem with either drugs or alcohol at one point in time or another in their life. So we've always been in the mix of somebody's crazy drama. We lived right down the street from my grandmother. We've had people show up at our front door really messed up and causing fights with my mom to where my brother and I've had to kick them out, or we've had to run down to my grandmother's house because a couple of an aunt and an uncle were asking her for money and she wouldn't give it to them. So they were threatening to beat her up and were in her face. And my brother and dad and I had to run down the street and beat the shit out of him. My brother likes to tell the story of how he looked over to see me throwing my aunt over the fence to get her away from my grandmother. I mean, we've had some pretty fun fights over the years.
Yeah, that seems I don't know, fun.
You know, when you have somebody that's a mess like that and they're constantly doing something, when you get to finally kick their ass, it's not a bad thing. And we did. Like my dad and my brother chased my uncle into the street. He almost got hit by a bus because he didn't want to take his comeuppance when they got there. But my aunt decided she was going to go after my grandmother. So I kind of picked her up like the Hulk and threw her around, and we got in a big fight and threw her over the fence and told her not to come back. We've done some crazy things. Or another thing that my aunt did was she burnt down my grandmother's garage because she wouldn't give her any money. And my aunt was in a drug-induced stupor. So she burnt down the garage with the car and the dog and everything in the garage and
holy shit.
Burned it to the ground. My grandmother was running for the garage, and her boyfriend stopped her from doing it because the garage was too far gone. She was trying to save her dog in her car, but yeah, we've always had things like that. Or lately, because there's only 2 people left out of my mom's side of the family, it's crazy stories. Like, we could tell a story to one of my cousins, but again, my cousins are my mom's age because I'm the last. My mom was the last of 13, so my cousin is my mom's age. I told her a story at a wedding, or I told her what was going on with me at a wedding, and she played telephone with whomever in the family, and when it came back, I was leaving my husband because I was a lesbian, and my husband had gotten somebody pregnant, and I'm like, that is not what happened. But I knew when I told her what was going on, I could see her brain moving, and I knew it wasn't going to be good. For some reason, I just had this feeling it wasn't going to be good. And yeah, so she basically, what she said about my husband was disgusting. And then calling me a lesbian, I thought it was funny because normally I'm the worst in these stories. So to be the lesbian wasn't as bad as the other stuff that they had said about my husband.
Right.
So, and then my cousin calls, and it's her, one of her grandmothers, saying, "Tina, I'm so sorry. Did you hear what they're saying about you?" And yeah, I've been used to this because it's been going on my whole life. So I was like, really? That's what they come up with? That's hilarious. And she was hysterically crying. She was so upset. But to me, it's just, it's a standard situation that goes on in our family all the time. We've learned over the years how to deal with it, and I just laugh at it now because I'm like, wow, they got there on this one. This story is a good one. But my cousin was crying and very upset and took me out to dinner. Like, mind you, she was somebody that grew up in my house. She's 28 years old, and she's just the sweetest thing, and she idolized me because she was always with me, and she was so concerned. And they took me out to dinner, and she's trying to tell me, and she's so upset, and I just laughed. I'm like, you got to understand, I'm used to this. It doesn't have to be a big deal, and I'm okay. And yeah, the story was a pretty good one. I'm impressed that they did so well on that. But it's extremely toxic because you should be able to go to your elders and talk to them freely and get information or get advice. And in my case, people are nice to my face, and then you turn around and hear a story from somebody else, and I'm like, wow, you're not nice at all,
Those are the hard ones, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, I'd rather, if you're going to be a dick, just be one to my face. It's better.
Yeah. And and it's nonstop. Like they never cease to amaze me. It's never there's never not a story. If I talk to them, something comes back all messed up. And I was always kind of the black sheep anyway, because I was Hispanic, one of the few Hispanics out of the 13 people, because everybody pretty much married other Caucasian people. And my mom married Native American and Mexican. So we were always on the outskirts of things. I was always kind of made fun of and would have to hold my own and fight with my cousins and get on them to stop their bullshit. And then the funny thing is, like, since everybody's grown up, most everybody's married a Hispanic person. So I think that's kind of a funny thing,
Little irony.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm like, and all your grandkids now are Mexican. Hey, yeah. And then I had an aunt on my dad's side that she was just ruthless. Like, she didn't like anything that I did. And she was constantly had an opinion about it. And she was brutal. I mean, her opinion towards me was disgusting. The way she dealt with me was horrendous. She tried to beat me up when I was 30 because she didn't like the questions I was asking about my grandfather's birthday. I mean, the list is long. I had to have people hold her back and hold me back, because at that point I was coming after her. But I don't even speak to her anymore. It's been like, it's been like 20 years, 21 years. No, 16 years since I've even spoken to her. I can't do it anymore. And the funny thing is her twin brother can't really deal with her either. And my dad's minimal with his interaction with her. So it's not just me. It's the family in general that has a hard time with her because she just can't be nice.
I find it, though, that like when you end up with a family member like that, like any toxic family member, you do end up having to cut people off, even like toxic friends. At some point you have to just go, okay, we can't do this anymore because it's not conducive to a healthy lifestyle or a healthy relationship. Right. So I think those are kind of the things where you end up going like you said, you're the black sheep, even though you're not. You're just the black sheep. You're not the outcast. Those toxic people end up being alone. It might take 10 years or 15 years, but they all end up alone.
Well, yeah, their kids don't even speak to them hardly at all, if at all. I mean, there's two different. Some will barely speak to their family members, their parents, because of that, and then others they don't at all. They won't even go there. They block the phone call. They don't. They just don't deal with it, And I had to do that with my daughter because things got pretty hairy between us. And it was like, it came down to, I either need to be healthy minded and cut it off for a while, or take abuse that wasn't even fair. So in my life, I've had to really kind of separate from people that I completely loved in order to have some sanity in my own life. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe people would say that I'm toxic. I don't know. I don't care. I'm like, they can say whatever they want to. I don't talk to them.
I would say that I like I said, I bet you all of us have been called toxic at some point.
Maybe.
Because I think it's always going to be how they see you. Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, I don't think I have toxic people in my family. Just by the outside looking in, but close people to me, very close people. I've heard stories where you're just like, holy shit. Like, mm-hmm. How does this person keep doing this and no one says anything? And a lot of it too is like the patriarchy, like the old grandmas. Like grandma just does crazy shit, and like no one says anything because it's like, well, she's grandma and she's old. It's like, no, that's not how the world should work, because grandma never understands, or, mom, obviously, like grandma to the grandchildren, but like, I don't know. I find that kind of, bizarre that kind of stuff happens where they just continue to go on. And a lot of them are like, well, she's 90, so she's going to die soon. It's like, well, yeah, but she's fucked up everything for 4 generations. It's like, no, we're really kind of, perpetuating that. We're just continuing the cycle. So then, her daughter does it, then her daughter's, the grandchild does it. And it just becomes this toxic trait that is now handed down to so many people.
Well, I remember so my mom had a brain aneurysm when I was 30 years old, and she was fortunate because they were able to fix it before it completely blew up and she died, because that's where it was going. But after she was through with having her brain aneurysm, she wasn't the same person, and she had a lot of headaches and a lot of pain. And so the doctors just kept putting her on more and more medication. She started with, just going to one doctor, and then they were sending her to a pain clinic. And I don't know if you know about pain clinics, but they will hand you anything and everything in abundance to help with your pain. I believe you legitimately have to have health problems for it, because she did, but it made her so bad that we had to have an intervention with her. And my brother was like, you can't see my kids anymore because you can't take care of my children. You're falling asleep while you're there with them, and you're not any good for anything. And as sad as it was, because my mom, before the brain aneurysm, even before she got really into the drugs, was the super mom. She took care of everybody, and she was just fun loving, and she would let us TP houses and then come pick us up, and she'd let us ditch, and we could go in the pool, but I was a straight A honor student. So my mom's like, you want to do you. She was really cool like that, and young. But once the drugs took over, she was somebody we had to cut off for a while too. And I as I'm talking about this, I hate that, but I really do feel like I had 2 mothers. I had the healthy one whose brain completely worked, and she was a badass. Don't get me wrong. Like she was crazy in her own right. But after she got into the drugs really bad, and the aneurysm had really just messed up her brain, she wasn't any good for anybody. Right. I would have to stay at the house so that Dad could get some sleep, because she would smoke cigarette after cigarette and drop them and burn things. Or she used to like lighting the cigarette over the stove, which kills me because she lit her hair on fire several times. And then when I go to cut her hair, I go, Mom, what did you do to your hair? And she goes, you fucked it up the last time you cut it. I don't know. You just need to fix it. And I'm like, Mom, this isn't a bad haircut. This is sizzled hair, but she would swear that it was me, and would say it really loud in the salon. And I would get so embarrassed. I'm like, why would she do that? But in knowing how bad her brain was abused with the trauma of having the aneurysm, I gave her a lot of leeway. But in doing that, we had to take a lot too.
Right.
And so I had to deal with, in my lifetime, over the years, so many women, not so much the men. The men in my life are pretty stand-up, cool men. It was always the women. Like, they just were kind of nuts. And, we had to endure a lot of abuse because of it, like a lot of emotional abuse, not so much physical, because I'm probably one of the bigger women in my family and I don't let people hit me, but a lot of emotional abuse, a lot of turmoil was around us growing up. And my brother and I talk about it now, and my brother says, you realize that's not normal, Tina? And I'm like, really? Like, I never thought that it wasn't normal. I just like, this was just our life.
Right.
And, you know, we made fun of a lot of things. We had fun in a lot of ways, but we did suffer tremendously from the interactions with our family and the drug abuse and the mental abuse that was in our family. It's been difficult. And I know in talking to other friends about their situations, you know, they have mothers that really just beat them down, or they have fathers that aren't around for them, or they have mothers that won't let the fathers be around for the kids because he doesn't deserve it. So over the years, I've heard a lot that's been kind of abusive. You know, you have to let things go on, and you have to let kids see their parents, and you have to be able to say something to somebody and have them not say whatever you said back to 100 people. And then by the time it gets back to you, it's like the game telephone, it's all messed up and it doesn't even make sense anymore. Mm-hmm. So,
you know, you said something that's kind of interesting. Like, I have a really good friend of mine where, and I've talked about her on the show before. Her mom just browbeat her down about her physical appearance for so long. Yeah. Just over and over and over and over, to the point now where, you know, she would do anything to change her appearance to make herself feel pretty, which again, like I'm not one to say, hey, don't change. Like, if you want to get plastic surgery, that's up to you. It really is. But I think to that, you know, mom just browbeat her to the point where, like, she doesn't think she was pretty for the longest time. And, and I think that, you know, sometimes, look, emotional abuse is just as toxic. You know, it's physical. It's matter of fact, it can be worse because physical abuse could stop after people die. Mental abuse never stops. It's like a seed. It just plants in you, and over and over and over, even far after they're gone, you know, people will be like, oh, remember your mom? And all of a sudden you're like, geez. Or, you know, remember your Uncle Frank? It's like, yeah, I remember Uncle Frank. He was crazy. And it's like this, and this. So, and then it just brings up ghosts from the past. So I think that people really don't understand, you know, that letting people continue to be toxic is toxic itself. Mm-hmm. You know, I would remember when I was growing up, I was in the 3rd grade, and I was always told I was fat. And looking back at pictures, I wasn't fat. I was thick, but I wasn't fat. But I was also a good head taller than anybody I hung out with. I was even looking at a picture that I took during COVID when me and 2 of my best friends went to throw pottery. And we took a class to do that. And we all stood together so we could show our pottery, and the people took a picture. And if you look at us, they're at most 5'2", 5'4". I'm 5'9", almost 5'10". So of course I look bigger. Of course I look, I look bigger. I look thicker. But I look at all these pictures as I've gone back, and I'm like, why did people just leave me alone? I wasn't fat. I was overweight, but I wasn't fat. But they really did put a number on me. And in my head, I constantly felt like I was not sexy. I wasn't attractive. I wasn't so many things. And God forbid you put a camera in front of me, I get so uncomfortable. And I modeled, and I did things that most girls that were skinny didn't do. But I remember even in the 3rd grade, my mom put me on diet pills. She was on the strongest diet pill, and I was on the weakest. And I was on those for a while, and my dad woke up. It was like 3:00 in the morning, and I'm rearranging my bedroom. And he's like, what are you doing? And I said, I couldn't sleep, and I had all this energy, so I'm fixing my room. And he's like, oh, hell no, get her off those pills. She shouldn't have been on them anyway. But
everybody was so concerned about my weight when they needed to look at the fact that I was taller than they were by the 7th grade. I was 5'10" in the 7th grade. I was by far the tallest girl in the whole school, and probably the bigger one, because we're not small people. But I definitely wasn't like what they were saying about me. I wasn't fat to the point where it stopped me from doing anything. I played softball. I was a Girl Scout. I did student council. I did communicators. I was involved in anything and everything I could get into. And I look back and go, you bitches. Like, you had me thinking that I was ugly because of my size. And the funny thing is now, I think there's a movement now that's going on where guys aren't really into the skinny girls like they were in the 80s. And now, you know, I'm trying to get out of that mindset because I've been told, no, you're so beautiful. And I'm like, I don't feel it. But they don't see what I'm seeing because they didn't grow up with the crap that I grew up with, you know, hearing all the time. So toxic people or toxic situations, they definitely do take their toll, and they do leave a mark on your spirit and how you are and how you deal with things, for sure.
Yeah, it's like our friend of the show, Liv. You know, she's been on a couple of times. She just graduated from high school. She's almost 6 feet tall, and thicker, but not. I mean, but curvy. You know, like has, I guess what, you know, in today's thing would be like, you know, she definitely has an hourglass, but she's really tall. So that also leaves you where even your own fellow students are toxic enough to say things to you like, oh yeah, you're not going to do this, or no guy's going to ask you out. Well, and all of a sudden that those seeds are so planted deep inside of you that you believe that no one's going to ask you out.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
remember being fearful that I'd never have a boyfriend. I remember being fearful that I wouldn't have a date for prom. I remember being fearful that nobody'd want to marry me. Like, I really had fears because people had put all this shit in my head. And I've been engaged 3 times. I got married only once, thank God. I had a date for prom. I have boyfriends that said how much they just loved me and how good I was and everything. And I thought, I didn't think I was all that great. And how sad is that I didn't think that because of the way that I was set up basically to fail. That's how I see it.
Right. No, I agree. And it's that toxic behavior. And it's, I don't know. It's a horrible thing to the point where either it'll run you down until you're nothing, or the flip side, the person who's toxic around you ruins everything. Like to the point where like for a long time, from what I understand, I haven't talked to her in a while. I guess her and her mom have kind of mended their fences a little bit, but you know, they used to be at the same parties, you know, for children and not speak to each other. This is your mom. And literally,
my mom did that to me so many times.
I mean, to me, it's just wild to me. You know what I mean? Like, I've never, because I wouldn't be like that no matter what. Like, look, I love my mom to death. She's crazy. She's batty. But in the best way. I mean, she's just my mom. But I couldn't imagine never like being in the same room at a party for a family member and not talking to someone. It's like, nah, like I couldn't imagine that. I'd squash that shit quick.
Yeah. For me, I remember when my brother told me that his wife was having a girl, I shit myself. Like, I started crying. I was like, Teddy, I don't want you to have a girl because I don't want to act like my aunt did to me. And he was like, Tina, shut up. You're not going to be like that at all. And I was so afraid. I was so afraid that it took me a minute to try to even, you know, be happy for them. It really did. And it's funny because my brother's daughter is is so much like me. She's not tall, but she's thicker. And she's a badass. I love this kid because she is so much like me and my mom. And I always say, I'm not going to tell you what to do. There are things I wish she would do, but I will not push that because I want to see what it would be like for her to just be her and kind of see how I would have been had all those bitches just shut the fuck up. So I'm my niece's favorite and we have a really good time. And oh my God, I adore her. She even calls me. She's 13 and she's like, hey, Thea, you want to hang out on Friday night? And no matter what I'm doing, even if I have a date planned or whatever, I'm like, I will be there and I will drop everything to hang out with her because I don't want her to have those same memories that I had with my aunt that was such a C word. Oh my God. She just was. She was so bad.
Right.
And
yeah,
even
and
my
those
friends
are things that,
even my friends that were around was like, why is she such a bitch? Like, it wasn't just me. It was everybody. Because I thought maybe it's me being a jerk, but no, it wasn't.
Yeah, those are those things where like everyone knew. You know, and it's wild because I think that when you're in a situation like that, you'll be in the background of like, let's say a family get together and people are in the background walking by like, oh, like there. Just talking mad shit. And, but that family member still goes to all of the family events knowing that he or she is just a hated person.
That would be me.
Yeah. No, but I mean, but these people come, but they come to wreak havoc. They know that they're the toxic one and they don't care. So they come to actually ruin things. You go with the intention of going, okay, if you don't like me, that's fine. But you're not going there to drop bombs on people. Like, that's me. No. Like, I don't care if the people like me or not, but I'm going to go, but I'm not going to be a dick just to be a dick.
No, I go and I sit with the family members that adore me because there's the flip side of that. I have family members that wouldn't want to be with anybody else but me. And I sit down with them and we have a good time and we joke and laugh. And then next thing I know, like, a couple months later, I'll hear how I did something. And I was like, I sat there the whole time with my family and did nothing. So I don't know what to say. You know what I mean? I had a cousin that I adored. I used to do her hair. I used to go to her parties. I used to everything. And I guess my mom told her that we were fighting. And so she took my mom's side and she just quit dealing with me, quit getting her hair done, quit inviting me to parties, quit having anything nice to say to me. I would go and give her a hug and a kiss like I thought nothing was wrong. And she would like kind of turn on me and go, I'm not kissing you. And what the hell did I do to her? But I'd leave it alone. And I remember I had a party for my dad and, these people that were like this, they were like, I'm showing up to the party. I'm like, no, you're not. I didn't get invited to any of the parties that you guys have had. Leave me alone. If you want to have a party with my dad, have a party with my dad. This is something I'm paying for. And if you can't be nice to me, get the hell away. If it was a family function or something where I wasn't paying for it, I didn't have shit to say. But I'm not going to have people around that are toxic and I'm paying for it. And so I'm uncomfortable when it's my father. You know what I mean? And even my dad was like, I don't know how people could give you such a hard time because if they only knew, you would let anybody do anything as long as they weren't putting it out there that you were an asshole. You would just let things go on. And, it kind of makes him feel bad because he's like, why are these people doing this? Because I watch you to make sure you're not being an asshole at these parties. And you don't even have to get up to be the asshole,
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, I hope that, what people get from this kind of conversation that we're talking about is that, look, being the toxic person is one thing because you may not know it, but being on the outside looking in at a toxic person and continuing to let them be toxic is the worst thing you can possibly do, I think. at some point you have to go in at least and go, look, I can't be around you because of this, this, and this. At least, so because you have some kind of self-being of, look, I did my best, and if the rest of these yahoos here wanted to, dance around said person, okay, that's up to you, but not me. I want nothing to do with that shit. I'd rather sit at home. I'd rather go hang out with my friends and get around that, because it's not worth what it does to you inside mentally. And it's crazy what it can do to somebody. I mean, what it can do to a family is absurd. So
absolutely. Yeah, and the funny thing is, if they really thought about what they're doing, like, they're putting a lot of hate on other people, when in actuality, they're the one being kind of crusty. You know what I mean? If they just stopped and just enjoyed, we could have so much fun. I'm all for having fun. I don't know if you know that yet about me, but I don't judge people. I like to hear what they're saying. I like when people don't act perfect. I'm a fan of imperfections. I always say my favorite saying is, do you. I just want to watch and get some popcorn and see what kind of shit show we're all going to deal with. I don't understand why the hate has to be so intense. I don't get that. And why would somebody go against a relationship between a mom and a daughter? I wonder about that too. They should stay out of that crap.
Well,
but
I mean,
that's family.
but look at how toxic even relationships on the outside can be for a family of, like, husband and wife, where, you're the parent of a daughter who sees the husband as being the greatest thing in the world, and maybe they're not, or, he's got some kind of toxic trait, but you don't want to, not invite your daughter to whatever get together. So here comes the anchor, and the next thing you know, everyone's just like, or he says something and they're in the back corner, arguing over leaving because he doesn't want to be there, and they don't like me. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're a dick, but we invited you anyway, and you still don't get it. Or then the next time they don't get the invite, and then really shit hits the fan. So it's like, hey, can you come over, but leave Bill at home? It's like, fuck, really? Man. It's like, I couldn't imagine. I'm sure it happens though. I guarantee that kind of shit happens.
Oh, for sure.
Because
I've heard it in my own family, and I'm like, come on now.
But I can see both sides of that. Like, it's got to be a difficult thing where you just know that the turmoil is coming to the party. It's like, it's like knowing the hurricane's coming, and you can see it in the distance, and you're like, fuck. Okay. Well, everyone strap in, grab a hold of the fucking chair, and let's ride it out. And then you just hope that, like, they either don't drink a lot or leave early.
I remember every holiday, my mom would be such a bitch in the morning of the holiday that we had to go and, like, spend it most of the time with Dad's family, because she didn't like the aunt that was being mean to me. Although they were close, she didn't like that personality trait of hers. And then my grandmother was very judgy with my mom. And so every holiday, she was so crappy to us because she just didn't want to be there. And it made me grow up, like, hating holidays. Like, I don't want to deal with that shit. Like, can't we get together and just have a barbecue and not worry about that it's Christmas, and not worry about it that it's this or that or the other? Like, can't we just not give a shit? But it took me a long time. Yeah. It was hard. Like, I remember Mom was just so angry, and she'd pick fights with Dad, and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to do this. And we had to do it.
Yeah, I think that those are again, I think a lot of that stuff ends up being to where you are just like, oh, son of a bitch. Like, okay, well, let's just do it and see and hope for the best. And it's like, I don't know. I would have a problem doing that, but that's me. I just think it's so difficult to deal with that on a daily basis of being just this horribly toxic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, horribly toxic. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm kind of lucky. I don't feel that that I've been around that thing very much. So, I you know, like I said, I find myself to be kind of lucky. So I feel good about that. But
I was fortunate that my husband was I call him the politician. Was the type of guy that everybody liked because he never really gave an opinion or didn't have much to say. So I was fortunate that he kind of was a buffer for me for years. And I love that about him, that he could go and do that and not add to the drama. But at times I wish that he or my dad would have said, would you knock your shit off? We don't need this, you know? And
right.
They didn't do that, which was so frustrating. They are very much politicians, but they don't like confrontation. So I was grateful that he was the way he was and he could kind of buffer the situation for me. But I also wished at times that I had somebody sticking up for me, because it would have been really nice to have somebody just say, you're being an asshole to her, stop it. Because I was kind of left to fight on my own.
Right. And no one wants that shit.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. At least not me.
It was interesting. It was interesting.
I'm sure.
It's not that way so much anymore. We've kind of weeded out the bitches that we didn't want around. And thankfully people have passed on that were unhappy, and, now they don't have to be unhappy. But it like the still the women that like to throw a story. Oh man, I wish they'd stop.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. It's, I couldn't imagine that, that I would have to be in that all the time. Thank goodness I'm not. But, and again, I was kind of lucky as well with my marriage. Like my in-laws were cool. Like I didn't have, like, there was none of that either. So, and I've heard horror stories about that too. Like just super toxic, in-laws, where it's just like, no matter what you do, you could be the greatest person in the world, and no matter what, like, they throw you under the bus or whatever. So
I definitely saw that in my family.
Yeah. So I don't know. I find it to be a very interesting subject, as always, because I think that that these are real things that are out there. This isn't your where you're just like, oh, it's haha. It's like, no, this is for real. Like, this is real shit that happens to people all the time, where, and, I know that people throw that the toxic word around like it's no big deal, but I believe that it's a bigger deal than most people want to really talk about. So
and in having toxic people in your life, you have to change your the way you deal with things. Like you can't let it get under your skin. You have to roll with it. Know these people are going to be the way they are, but you don't have to engage. And I think that that's like something that people should know. Like, you don't have to play the part. You can let them say whatever they say until they're blue in the face, but just act the way you're going to act. Be with the people you want to be with, and don't worry about the other shit, because worrying about it just makes your life more like harder or more difficult, or it's just, it hurts you. And I let a lot of hurt go on in my life over the years with that. And now I'm just like, I'm just going to sit with the people that I want to be with and fuck the rest of them. And life has been so much better being like that.
Yeah,
it took me a long time. Agree. Yeah.
And look, there's no time like the present. You don't have to, continually feel like you're being hammered or bashed. It's like, stand up, say this is how it's going to be, and you have to live, and you have to live for you. So, and I think that's the best part, or the best thing. I've learned over the last couple of years that no matter what, life goes on. Always. There isn't, life doesn't stop unless it stops. So it'll go on. Whether it's the way that we want to or not, it'll go on. So if you have toxic people in your life and you don't want them there, it's okay to say, I gotta go. Like, I can't be around this situation because it's bringing me down, or it's bringing the family down, or it's bringing this down. It's like, sorry, you can't come here anymore until you realize you're the problem. And yeah, and it's okay. I think, hopefully younger people are going to, hear this and at least understand that, like, look, you have a lot of years left. There's no reason to continue to let people bring you down.
Absolutely.
Well, that's our show. Amazing.
We did it, and it's so fast.
Amazing how quickly that went.
Yes.
You want to tell these fine folks where they can hear this lovely show?
You could hear us on Spotify, Google, Amazon, Audibles, Apple, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And feel free to reach out to us on our social media. You could reach us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And we would love to hear your opinions, and thank you to my friend in Tennessee who gave us the idea for tonight, and thank you for all of your downloads, man. You've been listening to some serious episodes, so thank you, and thank you for your comments. She said that she really liked our podcast, so I have to say thank you so much for listening and for always being a friend.
Great. And share. Send this podcast to your friends. But if you need links, share it and subscribe so you get the downloads every Wednesday. And it's
we only have 8. We only have 8 more states before we have listeners in all 50 states. So please share so that we could get those last 8 states.
Yeah, because that's our first goal. Our first goal is to hit all 50 states. And we're getting there. We're pumping them out. And enjoy the over 50 episodes. And there's a big library. So listen back to those early shows that probably aren't so great, but were just as fun.
They were a good time.
They are. And this is an opinion show. So don't get it twisted. Have fun. Listen. Keep coming back. Subscribe. And we will see you, or you'll hear us every Wednesday. Check back in. Tina, it's been fun as always.
Yes, it has.
All righty. And we'll see you in a week. Bye.
See ya.